What's up, guys? Today I want to go over how to paint a BMX bike frame, or basically any bike part on any bike. But today I'm going over my frame. Going to be just going over the steps on how to paint it, how to do it right, things you have to do, things you don't have to do, all that kind of stuff. So, first step is obviously to disassemble the bike. Always take the bike apart. Whatever part you're painting, whether it be the bars, your wheels, whatever, always take it off and strip it down as far as you can, and then tape off whatever is necessary. But I'm doing my frame, so I'm going to take literally everything off. The only thing I'm not going to be able to take out is the bottom bracket because it's a pain in the ass. I'm just going to put tape over it, tape it off, and it'll be just fine. And everything else is going to come off. When you're tearing it apart, a couple things that'll make it really easy, if you're doing a frame at least, would be to leave your bars in your stem, leave your front wheel in your fork, leave your seat together, leave your pedals on your cranks, and leave your sprocket on your cranks, all that stuff. Probably the most difficult thing to remove is the chain, because you have to have a special tool for that. Everything else you could just have a regular tool set take off. So I'm going to get this bike torn apart, and then I will get back with you guys with the next step. Alright guys, so I got the entire bike torn down. As you can see, there it is right there, everything is off. So the next step is to remove all of the stickers, and then sand down any scratched parts like down here, and then clean all the grease off of it and just get it nice and smooth. I'm not going to scuff everything, I'm just going to smooth out all the scratches, pull the stickers off, all that, so that it's a nice flat smooth surface. And then I'm going to tape the over these bearings. I'm not going to take them out, they're a pain in the ass to take out. So yeah, as far as sanding all the paint off, whether you need to or not, the only time you'd ever need to sand all of the paint off is if it's already been spray painted before. Then you want to remove all of the previous paint, or if the paint is peeling off or flaking off. Only the areas that are peeling off or flaking off need to be removed. Just work your way up through different grits and make sure it's all nice and smooth. If it's really bad, then sometimes it's just easier to strip all the paint off of it. And chemical strippers work well. Zip strip is one of my favorites if I have to remove it all. But in my case, my paint is still in really good shape. There's just scratches and stuff I have to smooth down, stickers take off. So yeah, I'm going to get all that prepped. That shouldn't take very long. The hardest thing is removing stickers. Sometimes they really suck, and this frame's like 4 years old, so this paint, or these stickers might not want to come off very easy. Alright guys, so I got the entire frame sanded, stripped, and it is currently hanging up. I just used a tow strap and just wrapped it through. It's not perfect, but it works. I was able to get it to the perfect height. As you can see, I sanded down here, and then I sanded up here where the head tube was, because all the gooey stuff from the stickers didn't want to come off. Pretty much sanded anywhere there was a scratch, and just got it as smooth as I could. It's not perfect, but the primer and all the layers of paint will pretty much hide all of that. Sanded all the scuff marks off of it. Taped off the bottom bracket bearings. So yeah, everything's pretty much ready to go. It's all cleaned up. So what I've got here is the first thing I've got. I'll show you. Flat white primer. This I'm using for two reasons. One, because there are some bare metal spots that I need to get covered. Two is because the paint I'm using, this fluorescent paint, is kind of transparent, and if I were to just spray over the red, or if I were to use even gray primer, it'd make the color, the fluorescent paint, come out like crap. So if you're using a brighter color or fluorescent or anything that's kind of transparent, use white primer in behind it to make the color pop better, and it'll come out way nicer. And then for paint, got fluorescent pink paint. This is Ace Hardware brand stuff, but it really doesn't matter. Like I said, the reason I'm using the white is to make the pink really nice and bright. If I've used gray in behind it before and it comes out looking like crap, really dark, ugly looking color. So if you're using any brighter colors or anything fluorescent, or any colors that, or any paint that's kind of transparent, and do a quick test spray, like get some white paper, make a couple black marks on it with a Sharpie, spray it, and see how transparent it is. Or just play it safe and get white primer. Now if you're doing just black or something, or if you have a primer and paint combination, that's your best bet. There's no need to really spray any primer on. Paint primer combos save you money on the long run, and they layer a lot better. So I'm going to start getting the primer on. Now when you're putting your first layers of whatever, whether you're doing paint for just going straight to paint, or if you're putting primer on, put really light thin layers on until you've got pretty much the entire thing coated, and then you can start laying heavy and wet coating. But until you've got the entire thing covered and the paint seems to be sitting right, you're going to have to just do thin layers. So I'm going to start spraying this thing down. Alright, so a quick tip when you're shaking the can, because you want to, if it's the first time you're using it, you want to make sure you shake it for a good minute or so. But if you want to know if you've got it mixed really well, go ahead and take a look at the bottom of the can, and if you can see a bunch of little dents all over the bottom of the can from the ball that's in the bottom of the can, you've got everything pretty much pulled off the bottom. So as you can see mine, you can see all those little tiny specks. Those are all dents from that ball hitting the bottom, which means that all the stuff is gone off the bottom and it's mixed and ready to go. So I'm going to begin spraying it. Hopefully the lighting is good enough. I'm going to try to spray and record at the same time. So basically just the first couple layers you want to be thin until the whole thing's covered. Once the whole thing's completely covered, I'm just going to quit putting primer on it. So let's get started here. This is double coverage stuff, so it's going to layer on really fast. It's kind of dark over there, so I can't really see. That was a little bit thicker than I wanted, but as long as it doesn't start to run, we're alright. That's the most important thing, is to make sure that it doesn't run. So I'm going to call it right there. I'm going to let that little bit dry for a couple minutes. I'm going to go put a couple more on. Alright guys, so I got the entire thing covered in primer now. Yeah, I'm just going to let it sit and dry for like a minute or two. Just to let everything kind of cure together just a little bit, and I'm going to start putting pink on it. So looks pretty good. I got everything. Make sure I got everything underneath the seat tube. Because of the way I'm hanging it, it's kind of difficult to get to some of that stuff. Always make sure that you get the chain and seat stays completely covered, because sometimes those are tricky to see and get to with the can. And then of course the head tube, depending on what you're using, can be difficult as well. But everything's completely covered. It's looking really good so far, and it doesn't even have color on it yet. So like I said, I'm going to give it about 2 minutes or so, just to let it kind of sit. I don't want to, start wet coating on top of the primer before it's set for a little while. But one important thing with like layering the paint on is that a lot of people think you want to give it an hour between coats. No, you don't do that. Basically, when you're painting with primer, depending on the primer, this stuff dries really fast. Like, in fact, it dries so fast that like the overspray dries in midair and just turns to dust. That's what's all over that oil container. But people think that you should like leave it for an hour or two. No, like maybe from 5 to maybe 15 minutes, somewhere between there. Get back out there and put the next layer of paint on, because you want those layers to mesh together. If you give it too much time between layers, what's going to happen is the layers aren't going to mesh together, and you're not going to have one solid coat on it, and stuff's going to flake off really easy. You see it all the time when people paint their cars and they put clear coat on it, and the clear coat starts peeling off. It's not because it's crappy clear coat, it's because they gave it too much time to dry the color part of it before they put the clear coat on. You want everything to still be wet. It's called wet coating. You want everything to still be wet, tacky, and you want it all to just kind of mesh together. So like maybe 5 to 15 minutes between layers, if that. Depending on the size of the object you're painting, you can kind of just work around in a circle around it if you're doing a car or something. But in the case of a bike, I spend like 5 minutes between, maybe. Sometimes not even that. A lot of times it also depends on the paint you're using. Some paints are going to be more likely to run and drip, but if your surface is prepped properly, clean and everything, you shouldn't have a big issue with runs. One other thing I forgot to mention is as far as like actually spraying, when you're spraying, you want to move it kind of fast and direct, and you want to keep it a fair distance away from the frame, because otherwise you're going to get those big blobs that run all over the place. It's going to look like complete ass. I was holding the can about here when I was painting it, which might be a little bit close by some people, for some people. Um, but it was working fine. Obviously, there's 0 runs on this, and the coat is perfectly even. Um, but you want to move the can very quickly. You don't want to spend too much time on one area because then you're going to build it up too much and it's going to run. So you want to just, kind of go like it with the top tubes. I was going up and down and going around in a circle, and I'd get as much as I could, and then I would jump to the next one, and I'd jump to the next one down here, and then I'd come back to that one again. And if you do that and you just kind of jump from one part to the next, just going around each tube in a circle, you can pretty much just paint continuously. You won't have to really stop between layers, which is how I've done it. That's how I've been doing it for a very long time, and it's worked every time. Um, I've painted probably like 15, 20 bikes, so I've got a lot of experience doing it, and you kind of develop a technique and figure out how it works. But yeah, just make sure you never let the can sit too close, never move it too slow. You can also move it too fast, and because you want a wet coat, you want to get a nice thick layer going on after a while. Otherwise, you'll end up with this like really weird, rough feeling finish on it. Alright guys, the entire frame is completely covered, as you can see right there. The entire thing is good. I emptied the entire can on it. This fluorescent paint, the sprayer kind of sucked. It was really hard to push. My fingers were getting fatigued a little bit. But I was able to get the entire thing done with just one can, which is awesome. It looks really good. As you can see, there's pink all over the fucking ground. This stuff, like, it's not actually like stuck to it, but it's just powder. It's all over my shoes too. My shoes are kind of pink. But yeah, it came out really good. So, like I said, guys, a lot of it is in the prep. If you remove all the stickers, make sure it's nice and clean, sand down any rough spots. Depending on your color, make sure you use primer, and then be easy on the first few layers, and then layer it heavy. Don't sit in one spot for too long, but keep layering on top of wet layers. Don't let it sit and dry out, or you will have issues. So yeah, like I said, test the paint out first, see if it's transparent. If it is, like this pink paint, you'll want to make sure you use a nice white primer. If I hadn't used a white primer underneath that, that would be very dark, and it'd almost be it almost look red probably, or like a magenta-ish color, like a darker magenta color. That's what happens to it because it's cheap paint, but it looks good. Once I get the bike put back together, I'll get back with you guys and show you that. Alright guys, so I got the entire bike put back together. I'm actually about to go out and ride for a little bit before it gets dark, but here is the end result. All put back together. Bike looks amazing. Hopefully the camera's doing this thing justice because it is so bright. The only problem I had was like my hands were dirty and I touched it. I got dirty fingerprints all over it. I got most of it cleaned off. Baby wipes do a really good job of cleaning grease prints off. So I'm probably going to go back at it again tonight and clean the rest of it off because there's still a little bit like right there. But paint came out perfect. Weren't any runs or missed spots or anything. So anyway guys, hope you've enjoyed this video. Hope you found it at least a little bit helpful. And I will see you guys in the next one. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more.